At the age of 21, Tony Adams became captain of Arsenal Football Club. Most players spend years earning that responsibility. Most players wait for that opportunity. Tony Adams carried it before most footballers reach their prime. He was a leader, a winner, a future legend. And he was slowly destroying himself. Because while supporters saw the captain, Tony Adams was fighting a battle nobody else could see. This is not just a football story. It's a story about mistakes. It's a story about consequences. It's a story about redemption. And it's a story about getting back up when life knocks you down. Because Tony Adams didn't become a legend because he never fell. He became a legend because he refused to stay down. Born in Romford, England, in 1966, Adams joined Arsenal as a schoolboy and quickly rose through the club's ranks. From the beginning, coaches noticed something special. Not flair, not tricks, not natural showmanship. Leadership, commitment, character. The qualities that separate good players from great captains. By 21, Tony Adams was Arsenal captain. An extraordinary responsibility for a player so young. And perhaps the most remarkable part is that nobody expected him to become Arsenal's greatest captain. He wasn't the glamorous superstar. He wasn't football's biggest celebrity. Some players are born stars. Tony Adams became one. Through hard work. Through resilience. Through leadership. Managers changed. Players came and went. Football evolved. Tony Adams remained the captain. For 14 years, Arsenal looked to one man for leadership. And more often than not, he delivered. Around him, Arsenal built one of football's most famous defences. Lee Dixon, Nigel Winterburn, Steve Bold, Martin Keown. And at the centre of it all stood Tony Adams. Strong, fearless, commanding. Together they became Arsenal's famous back four, a defence built on discipline, organisation, trust, and leadership. But away from football, Tony Adams was losing control. Alcohol had become a serious problem. At first, it seemed manageable. Then it wasn't. The drinking became worse. The consequences became greater. Eventually everything caught up with him. In 1990, Adams was sentenced to prison for drink driving. The captain of Arsenal, an England international, one of the country's most recognisable footballers, now sitting behind bars. It was the lowest point of his life, the moment many believed would define him forever. Some thought his career would never recover. Some thought his reputation never would either. For the first time in his life, there were no teammates, no supporters, no football, just Tony Adams, and the consequences of his choices. For the first time, he had nowhere to hide. Many people never recover from moments like that. Tony Adams decided he would. After years of struggle, he made the decision that saved his life. He stopped drinking. Not for a few weeks. Not for a few months. For good. The battle wasn't easy. There were difficult days. There were challenges. But Tony Adams kept fighting. Because this wasn't about football anymore. This was about survival. Then came another turning point. Arsène Wenger arrived at Arsenal. Many believed Tony Adams was nearing the end. Football was changing. The game was becoming faster, more demanding. Yet Wenger saw something others didn't. A leader, a winner, a captain. Wenger helped save the footballer. Tony Adams saved the man. Together, they helped create one of the greatest final chapters any footballer has ever written. Then came one of the most iconic moments of his career. Arsenal versus Everton. The title was within touching distance. The crowd were celebrating. The season was almost complete. Then something unforgettable happened. Tony Adams surged forward. The centre-back. The captain. The man many thought was finished. The ball arrived. He struck it perfectly. Goal. The commentator's words became immortal. Would you believe it? Millions watching around the world could. Because nobody represented Arsenal Football Club better than Tony Adams. One statistic captures his importance. Tony Adams captained Arsenal for 14 years. 14. Managers changed. Players came and went. Football evolved. Tony Adams remained. Even more remarkably, he won league titles in 3 different decades: the 1980s, the 1990s, and the 2000s. 4 league titles. 4 different Arsenal teams. 1 captain. Very few players in football history can say the same. Yet perhaps his greatest achievement came away from football. After overcoming his own struggles, Adams dedicated himself to helping others. Through sporting chants, he helped athletes battling addiction and mental health challenges. The man who once needed help was now providing it. And that might be the most important victory of all. Football has produced quicker defenders. Football has produced more elegant defenders. Football has produced more naturally gifted defenders. But football has rarely produced a greater example of redemption. Football remembers the trophies. Football remembers the captain. Football remembers the famous back four. But football should also remember the lesson. Because Tony Adams proved that your worst mistake does not have to become your final chapter. Years later, Arsenal supporters still sing his name. Not because he was perfect. Because he wasn't. They remember him because he faced his mistakes. Because he changed. Because he fought back. Tony Adams didn't become a legend because life was easy. He became a legend because he refused to stay down. And that is why Tony Adams will always remain a true footballing icon. Not because he was Arsenal's captain. Not because he lifted trophies. Not because he played hundreds of matches. But because he proved something every person needs to hear. No matter how far you fall, you can still rise again. What is your favorite Tony Adams memory?